Things are heating up in Canada. The carbon tax is to blame. My name's David. Welcome to Moose on the Loose. Today, we're going to break down multiple different clips here we got from different shows on CTV and CBC. The mainstream media can't dance around it anymore. They're trying their best. It's not working. We've got some conservatives in there that throw out some good zingers. Let's check this out.
Heather, it's more than 2 weeks before the carbon tax is set to go up again, and that is pitting premiers against the Prime Minister. Today, Justin Trudeau accused Newfoundland's Premier Andrew Scheer of giving way to political pressure as all four Atlantic premiers oppose Ottawa's plan.
I think Mr. Scheer is continuing to bow to political pressure. I think Canadians in Newfoundland and Labrador and right across the country expect their governments to do the right thing.
Justin Trudeau, we hate your guts. That's all I have to say.
First, the carbon tax will go up from $65 to $80 a ton. Premier Scheer, who's a Liberal, has called for a delay and has said the cost of living is high enough. The Prime Minister is defending his plan, highlighting the quarterly rebates that he says gives 80% of Canadians more money than they pay in the tax. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is doing campaign-style stops across Atlantic Canada to oppose the hike.
The whole thing is a big scam. Even the Liberals are coming out and saying it one at a time here, the spineless little guys, finally growing a backbone. At what point does this get axed here? Like, let's get real.
We don't think that the carbon tax is the right instrument at this time, especially given the inflationary pressures that exist for families across the province.
Welcome back. As we've been discussing this morning, and as you just heard there, the calls are growing for the feds to push pause on their April 1st carbon price hike. 7 premiers are now voicing opposition to the policy after Liberal Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Scheer joined the fray this week.
Well, look at this. This is out of control. 7 of them. 7 of them. How many more do we need until Justin Trudeau gets thrown in jail? This is ridiculous.
Kathleen Monk is a former NDP strategist. Corey Teneycke was Ontario Premier Doug Ford's campaign manager and former Director of Communications for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. And Scott Reid is a CTV News political analyst.
So the guy on the right, Scott Reid, he's the poopy pants guy who hates YouTubers.
Like, if the government continues on the path with a carbon tax where it's not just raising rates once, it's going to be raising rates twice before the next election. The chances of this re-election are between slim and none. And as the old saying goes, slim just left town. So when he talks about short-term thinking, I think he's got some very short-term thinking. There will not be a carbon tax if one way or another after the next federal election, if it maintains on its current trajectory, because it's very difficult to see a political future for him if it does.
Read the room, Trudeau. I don't understand why he just keeps doubling down. He keeps doubling down with the lies, saying we get 80% of 8 out of 10 people get more money back. It's not true. It's in the Parliamentary Budget Officer's report. It's more like 85, 90% get less back. His whole run as Prime Minister here is one of two things. It's either just straight up wealth, or it's just a straight narcissistic, he loves the power. He loves to feel like he's God in our country. That's it. He doesn't care about Canadians at all.
I mean, the policy itself is so visible because it's supposed to be driving, yeah, exactly, behavior change, and so people can see it. They see that 3 cents in a way they don't see other costs and increasing. But then you have to also remember Storm Fiona that hit the coast in 2022 in Newfoundland, or the summer firestorms that happened last summer, right? That evacuated major cities, right? And so how do we address those problems? How do we deal with it? And I think that the Liberals are not going to abandon the carbon tax. I think it's here to stay.
Those storms don't have anything to do with what we're paying. There's a funny comment here which summed it up. The implication that the carbon tax prevents forest fires or hurricanes is beyond stupid. Anyone who makes that point is a fool. Look at this, 288 thumbs up, including myself. A carbon tax does not stop hurricanes, floods, or fires. It's just... Canadians want him standing still in the closest penitentiary. Scrap the carbon tax, run an audit on where the money went. Yes, where is our money? What are we paying for? What did we get? We got nothing. They're getting lavish meals, they're getting pay raises. We get nothing. Then you'll go on vacation using jet emitting more carbon at the expense of Canadians. Canadians are done, Trudeau. Like, just pack up and get out of our country. This comment right here sums it up. Trudeau is kicking Canadians when they're down, and he's laughing about it. I couldn't have said it any better myself.
So are we able to measure how effective carbon pricing is in actually reducing greenhouse gas emissions?
So the theory of carbon pricing is sound, and it's been around for almost a century, I guess, from the publication of the Economics of Welfare back in the 1920s. So that's the idea, is to internalize a cost such as pollution or secondhand smoke or plastic litter and so on, internalize that into the cost of the item being purchased, whether that's gasoline, natural gas for heating, or so on. And so that theory is sound. Is it stringent enough to cause the changes that you're trying to make? And is it widely applied enough so as to have the full effect that is needed? We found in our audit 2 years ago that Canada had rolled out carbon pricing as a good initial step, but there were definitely problems associated with it. And we made some recommendations to help them improve the effectiveness of carbon pricing in Canada.
So basically, if you want to affect our habits, as in you guys don't want us to drive anymore, that's why you're increasing the cost on energy, on gas. Is this really what they're pushing here, is the snowshoe to work, as I keep making fun of, because Guilbeault, basically, it was in his presentation there, cross-country ski snowshoe to work? Like, there's no alternative. There's no... They want us to sell all our vehicles and buy electric, but then they don't have the electrical grid set up to charge electric vehicles, nor can they drive far enough for a lot of Canadians who are, have a lot of distance to cover, plus in cold temperatures. Our government is just run by the biggest idiots. They are so stupid or so arrogant to think that we don't get what they're up to. Throw these cockroaches in jail. They're going to increase this carbon tax twice before the election. I think there's actually going to be a mutiny in this country. There's going to be civil war. There's already talks of people not paying taxes. Something's going to break before the election.
Have you seen whether or not they've acted on those recommendations yet?
They've done some actions to bring in improvements to the carbon pricing system. They also promised that several of the other ones would only be dealt with at the next review of the carbon pricing system in 2026. So we'll have to wait and see how they do then. I had said that...
Dude, the carbon tax is gone by then, because Pierre Poilievre is axing that crap. Let's not even, let's get real here.
Especially around carbon pricing. Even on this show, Adam Van Koeverden, the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Environment, claimed that a third of emissions reduction in this country can be attributed to the price on carbon.
So the guy in the top right here with the poor framing of his camera is Adam Van Koeverden, liberal bonehead, and also former Olympian. Have some pride, dude.
At that cost, because there is a cost associated with the carbon tax. But for 80% of families, they're getting more back through this rebate than they pay at the pump.
That's wrong.
If that is true, Mr. Van Koeverden, and I will note that the parliamentary budget officer says when taking into account all the extra indirect costs associated with the carbon tax, slightly more Canadians are actually worse off. If the point your government keeps making that 80% are better off is true, why are people approaching the Premier at the gas station, asking him and pleading with your government to not further increase their cost of living?
Parliamentary budget officer's report is more like 85 to 90%. It's most of the boxes on that report, so it's only 10% that get more. And those are Mickey Mouse numbers that don't incorporate a whole bunch of factors like your mortgage, interest costs, and all that kind of stuff. This is nonsense.
Well, I think it's an easy scapegoat, to be honest. I think the carbon tax is an easy scapegoat for people, and that's been clearly documented by economists and journalists who are writing on this topic. And I've yet to hear from one economist in Canada that's saying that carbon price...
Scapegoat, really, man? You went from Olympian to blood-sucking liberal politician. What happened to your career, dude, that you're the one here trying to suck the life out of everyone? You talk about scapegoat. Jeez, man, have some pride.
And I've also yet to find any evidence that links grocery prices with carbon pricing. It's the number one driver of grocery prices in Canada is climate change itself. And if we don't fight climate change, then grocery prices will continue to go up.
This idiot. You go seriously, 33% comes from China, 1.5 from Canada. How are we solving the problem? We can't.
So it's important to note that this is a rebate program. We keep calling it a carbon tax, but Supreme Courts across the country have designated this not as a tax because it's a rebate program and it's revenue neutral.
You're a revenue loser, liar. That's what's going on.
This is actually a very, very conservative strategy.
Mr. Scheer, when I know your party has contended that this does make Canadians worse off, when the parliamentary budget officer did that analysis, he said that the majority of Canadians would be slightly worse off, but that primarily it would be felt by higher income Canadians, not lower and middle class Canadians. Is that not tenable to you, that to mitigate the large impacts of climate change, some Canadians will be worse off, but most of them, particularly low-income ones, will not?
Well, first, I just want to address a few things from my colleague, the Liberal MP, who had two lies and a truth in his statement. He said that it was unfortunate that the carbon tax applies in so many provinces. That is true. That is unfortunate. The two things he said that weren't true, though, one is that emissions reductions can be attributable to the carbon tax. That's just not true. The government itself admits that they can't keep track of that. They don't even study that. And the second one is that, as you just pointed out, the majority of Canadians are worse off. And this is felt across many income levels. And what we do know is that coming April 1st, Justin Trudeau, during a cost of living crisis, while millions of Canadians are visiting the food bank for the first time, is going to raise the cost of everything. 23% hike coming in on April 1st. Conservatives are going to fight that. That's why we've announced that next week we're going to be using our time in Parliament to once again put pressure on Liberal and NDP MPs who might want to ignore what their Liberal and NDP bosses are telling them in Ottawa and listen to their constituents who are struggling under the high cost of literally everything these days. It's just a breath of fresh air to hear some basic common sense here. Andrew Scheer is the only one.
And just to follow up with you, Mr. Scheer, I don't negate or take away from the struggles that people are facing. But to Mr. Van Couverden's point, if you do look to any economist that has attempted to analyze the impact of the carbon tax on the price of food, they find it difficult to ascertain or to be able to conclusively say it is large or very tangible. The conclusion that Trevor Tombe out of the University of Calgary came to was essentially that it isn't very easy to measure and that it is not massive in scope in any way, that it's likely pretty negligible.
The carbon tax is becoming a greater and greater percentage of utility bills. It's raising the cost of home heating. It is raising the cost of food. And we know this because the Parliamentary Budget Officer studied not just the direct impacts of the carbon tax, and that's what the Liberals have based their misinformation on. Their numbers are based on what you see on that line item, and that's what they built their program around. But we all know that there are lots of other things that go up when the carbon tax goes up. When the farmer that grows the food has to pay a higher carbon tax, that increases prices. When the trucker that has to transport the food has to pay a higher carbon tax, those prices will go up as well. And when the retailer has to pay higher utility costs, all that cascades on to the cost. And even the Bank of Canada governor acknowledged that the carbon tax is a significant culprit in inflation. So we can link many, many things back to the carbon tax being a big part of the cost of living crisis. And a better question would be to Justin Trudeau, why is he so obsessed with ramming this through? You've got 9 out of 13 premiers who are fighting to at least pause the hike and cancel the increase. You've got 70% of Canadians unhappy with the carbon tax. The government itself acknowledges that they can't link any emissions reductions to the tax, and they haven't hit a single target they've set for themselves. So at this point in time, after 8 years of this failed approach, isn't it time to axe the tax and bring prices down?
Andrew Scheer just ripped him a new one right there. Both Adam Van Couverden and Trudeau.
Question was specifically whether or not your party is supportive of the fact that the price on carbon will increase April 1st, though 7 premiers are asking for it not to.
We believe for April 1st, we should be taking the GST off home heating. We believe that that would impact right across the country, including in British Columbia and Quebec. That is what we are pressing the government for. But in the absence of that, you're okay? We're going to continue to push.
In the absence of that, you're okay with the increase?
We are going to continue to push to take the GST off home heating to ensure that there's retrofitting.
So this guy's NDP, they're fine with having carbon tax except on home heating. No more NDP. We just dissolved the Liberals and the NDP. These are just worthless, terrible parties. Next up, we got a clip here from CBC.
If you can make this about the environment, I think that's where the Liberals need to go, because we do not have a plan to compare it to from the Conservatives. We have what Pierre Poilievre ran on in 21, which was some sort of weird, you contribute something to the government, the Conservative government would set up a bank account and tell you what you could spend on. All Conservative MPs that ran in 2021 ran on that, but we don't have anything now to compare it on. At some point about meeting our targets, we're going to hear from other countries as well. And we seem to only be able to tell one story at a time right now in Canada, and then not completely. At that point, the focus may change a little bit and say, what is Canada going to do to meet our climate targets? Because right now we don't know what a Conservative government would do. No, we don't. And Mel, I don't know if we're going to find out because, it's 5 questions, no follow-ups, and then the answer is on whatever the leader wants to say. And, that's the tactic they have chosen. As Fred points out, it's working for them politically. Well, like he wrote a letter to David Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, saying you shouldn't raise your tax either, which is interesting given jurisdictional issues. And Eby said, referred to it as a baloney factory in terms of how Poilievre comes up with his policies. But nobody knows what the Conservative plan is on carbon. But as Fred says, it doesn't matter because they're making it about cost.
Right. What I find interesting about this is the ability for the Conservatives to be disciplined on their message, and outside of Eby, really not having anybody on the other side fighting back, making it super clear what it is that's at stake, making it super clear what this tax does and doesn't do. So I think the disciplined approach from the Conservative has turned this into something, and now we're hearing different provinces. Of course, some of these provinces have already said this, and I've been saying this for a while.
They've been fighting it since day one.
Totally.
If Eby thinks he's doing a good job around here, he needs to take a second look. Baloney factory, really? I have no idea why we even have an NDP government in BC here. These guys put carbon tax on us. We get nothing back. It's just like take. And where was Eby when they decided to spend $834,000 to use a machine gun out of a helicopter to kill 63 deer? The government just wastes so much money on stupid crap, and they do nothing to actually make things affordable and to do things for Canadians. They just line their own pockets, and Eby's no different. He's just an absolute fool.
At some point, perhaps we were distracted by a worldwide pandemic, but we lost the plot on this of why we were doing this. And that was the government's job to continue to tell us why this was, and there were, we had a couple of elections on this.
It's a bunch of just paid shills sitting here thinking they're some sort of relevant. They are not relevant. The Canadian people do not trust these CBC fools.
But tell us what you're going to do, because we're going to have another season of wildfires and of hurricanes. Yeah, Trump, COVID, Ukraine, and now affordability of all sort of like...
That's what happened in the world. Trump, COVID, Ukraine. That's why... oh my God, these guys are just unbelievable.
Derailed, the larger agenda plan. Anyway, we'll see how they play it when the House comes back. Mel, you wanted to highlight a former mayor making a jump into provincial politics.
Yeah, we saw Mayor Nenshi put his hat in the ring for the next leader for the Alberta NDP. Like the guy, don't like the guy.
This guy's a racist. Why would anyone want to vote this guy in? Let's just bring up what he said. Right here, Calgary Mayor Naheed Nenshi's remarks comparing anti-maskers to white supremacists are disgusting and ignorant. So it says this website is so annoying. Speaking about people who rally against social distancing and mask wearing, Nenshi said those people at those anti-mask protests, are marching in thinly veiled white nationalist supremacist anti-government protests. If that's not racist, I don't know what is. What does this have to do with white? Like, could that not be a bunch of black, Asian... Like, it could be anyone. Brown, pick a color. There you go, Alberta. If you want a racist running your province, you got this buffoon here. This carbon tax stuff has to stop. This is getting absolutely ridiculous. With the amount of crap that's being pushed on mainstream media, I think Trudeau is really, he's pushing it hard. They must be making a lot of calls like, oh, you need to, make sure Canadians know that 8 out of 10 get more money back. Yeah, we're not dumb, Trudeau. We're not dumb, CTV and CBC. You can look around and you can just see everything is off the charts more expensive. Once again, green peas used to be 99 cents. Now they're $2.69. Gas just went up here in Vancouver Island to $1.89. At this rate, in summer, we're probably going to be like $2.30, $2.50 per liter. Like, screw you, Trudeau. So to wrap up this video, I'm on X here. This is just ridiculous. They're spending so much of our tax dollars on stuff here. So Sean Fraser's got this nice, cute little animation, which probably spent a lot of our money to make. Justin Trudeau, and I'll show that in a sec. Justin Trudeau, he's got the same one. You'll see below Stephen Guilbeault's got another one. They're just trying their best to, paint Pierre as some bad guy.
Pierre Poilievre pretends to care about helping you find a home. The truth is, he doesn't. Listen to the way he talks about starter homes for young people in this country.
A tiny little shack. The woman who lives there defended her house.
He called it a shack.
Of course they got the woman who lives there. Like, is that a shack? Was that a bad wording? Yeah, okay, he probably shouldn't have done that, but that's not like a big, beautiful house. Let's just get real. The fact that this little video here talk about affordable housing, blah, blah, blah. Like, look at all this. We're not going to watch this stupid video, but like, there's so much animation here. Sean Fraser's trying to tell us he's the solution. This is the guy who quite literally destroyed the country with immigration first and housing. This guy should be in jail for his crimes against us, not spending our money in these stupid animations.
Millions of dollars on the table to support the construction of hundreds of thousands of affordable housing units.
There's no affordable housing, Sean Fraser. You will go down as one of the biggest disgraces in Canadian history. Now we jump down Justin Trudeau, once again, same video. Some weird stuff on here. We got this one here from Stephen Guilbeault, another disgrace in Canadian history. Pierre Poilievre is lying. Oh God, it's just liberals, man. They're just wasting our money on stupid stuff. They could actually go do something and maybe just make things a little bit better before they get kicked out of office. But nope. Oh, we got Seamus O'Regan, this absolute loser. Yeah, thanks for that tweet on there. So that's what Canadians really are feeling, is supporting Pierre Poilievre, not all this Trudeau crap.
Home invasion in Waterloo, Ontario. 6 armed men come to this Waterloo home at 5 in the morning to break into their home and steal their Rolls-Royce Cullinan. Their family's inside sleeping, and now this is happening just outside their door. This is terrifying, guys. This is happening all across Canada, all across Ontario. He's going to be going back to actually get the vehicle. You can see now, they've gotten the keys, they've entered the home. Now they're all running around to the back. The criminal's going in there. You'll also notice that it's gated, and so the security system's going off. You can also see it's covered by a gate, the Rolls-Royce. There's a black gate right in front of it, but that's not going to stop these criminals. And this criminal doesn't even care. He's just driving right through the gate of this Rolls-Royce, right? All that, the entire bumper is damaged. He doesn't care. He's taking the $600,000 Rolls-Royce vehicle, driving it over the gate, and getting out of here. Now, his criminal buddies are going to get the getaway car while he's driving out with this Rolls-Royce. Now, they all start scattering, going to the getaway car. They're going to get it, reverse out while the Rolls-Royce comes out.
What I don't understand, why doesn't the police just plant a Lamborghini that have a whole bunch of snipers waiting, and when they show up, do something? We'll say it like that. Do something. At the very least, put them in jail. I know, because Trudeau's got the catch and release bail system, so they don't go to jail. Give these guys a one-way ticket to North Korea and get them out of our country. Finally, we've got a video here of Justin Trudeau eating out. This is the amount of security he has to go eat out at a restaurant. This is just wild, man. Look how many horses there were. Look at this. You know you're hated when. Well, we're gonna wrap the episode up there. Justin Trudeau, buddy, from me, from all of us here, we all hate your guts, big guy. We hate you, slugger. All we can do now is take this one day at a time and keep making fun of Justin Trudeau. So that's what we're gonna continue to do. Thanks for stopping by and watching to the end of the video. Why not subscribe? Turn on the post notifications so you get notified of my videos. I greatly appreciate everyone here watching the videos, the channel members, the people donating. It means a lot to me. So thanks very much. I'll see you guys in the next one.